Colors weave into a spire of flame. Distant sparks call to a path still unnamed. Bear this torch against the cold of the night. Search your soul and reawaken the undying light.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 56th episode of Sonic Talk. We got quite a bit of video games to catch up on, as well as some Sonic news that's happened within the past month. With me tonight as a special guest is Misty Lakes. Say hi, Misty.
Hi.
Hi, and with me as always is GX Echidna.
I have a tiny plastic plane.
Oh, I have tiny plastic planes.
I think those are spaceships, you morons.
Yeah, a little
A
spaceship.
spaceship is a kind
Very
of plane.
well-designed spaceships. It's not a kind of plane. They're two completely different things.
It looks like a
It's a
plane.
And as you can hear, we also have my bud Alex Peel. How you
Yes,
doing,
I'm
Alex?
also here, always. I'm attached to Jason at the hip.
Yeah.
Aside from
All right.
that one time. I forget. That was a while ago, but whatever. So, yeah.
Okay, and so we're going to have a lot of mainly video game news to talk about before we talk about Sonic news. First up is my personal game of the year, Spider-Man from Insomniac Games, which I absolutely love. I've been enjoying the hell out of this. Beat it 100%. Went back for the Black Cat DLC and finished that up. But not 100%. I still have a few side missions to do, but I've been enjoying the heck out of that as well. And it's
Easily-
just an incredible game.
Easily the best Spider-Man game and the best Insomniac game ever made. And I'm a person who is a fan of both of those things. Like, I've been playing
It's-
Spider-Man since
It's the
Dreamcast.
first game I've had within the last few years that's a 10 out of 10 for me, which is it's almost flawless. There's a few things, if you're going to get into nitpicky things, I think the Mary Jane and Miles Morales sneaking around missions weren't exactly too exciting. Until near the end, it got a little better, actually, when they gave Mary Jane a stun gun to use against some of the guards and that, and then it became a little bit of a easier stealth portion. But other than that, I thought the storyline was incredibly well done, showing the slow origins of Doc Ock, and we have a Peter Parker who's like 25 now and has been Spider-Man for almost a decade, and
First
how
time
he's
this is...
been experienced at it and everything.
But by the way, this is a portion of Peter Parker's life we've never actually seen in the movies. And I would also argue that this is probably like the best Spider-Man movie. And I say this as someone who's liked most of them.
I mean, you got a mission.
Finished it
It's
yet.
so much into Peter Parker's life. You got a mission where you got to find all of your stuff that's been thrown out because you've been evicted, including an important USB dongle that has all your vital information and stuff.
It is probably the most New York version of Video Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean, there is some changes. I mean, he's actually friends with the police more than he is the enemy this time.
And that is
which
something
a
I
bit
really
unique.
appreciate. I appreciate Spider Cop. I'm like, I love Spider-Man, but it does kind of frustrate me that that they seem to always want to portray him as a lone wolf who like has to work alone all the time, unless he's with the Avengers.
There's stuff that I was finding out even late in the game, like being able to take selfies with people in the not the photo mode. Alex knows how much I love the photo mode because
I know it. Haven't actually done it myself
putting
yet.
photos on Twitter like mad because I absolutely love that mode. But I mean, you could just walk around New York, say hi to everyone, take little selfies
little
with
knuckles.
Give high fives.
Yeah, give high fives. I found out actually you can go over to a Daily Bugle news post thing, one of those, news
Ooh.
machines. Put a quarter in and pull out a Daily Bugle and read the headlines off of that.
You can do that?
Yeah, I didn't even know that.
I know
And
you can
so
high five, but I
Every
haven't
once in a
figured
while,
out that-
I'll just
figured
drop
that
down
out
to
yet.
the city streets and walk around as Spider-Man just for fun.
I've done
That's
that, and no
awesome.
one high fives me. I can just say hey, point at them, but no high five.
There's sometimes you can use the triangle button; it'll interact in a different way with them.
It's
I
like
haven't seen that yet.
you encounter certain pedestrians that you can do that with. It's not just anybody.
But I gotta say the
Yeah.
action is so fluid in this game. You never feel like you're not in control of Spider-Man at any time, except for maybe occasional finishing animations against criminals when you've got your combo meter going up and you get like those combo bars.
Yeah, and Spider-Man. Go on.
So other than that, you feel like you are Spider-Man in a lot of ways. You just feel like you're complete control of them, and the action and especially countering enemies is just so fluid and fast. It's really incredible.
The game is just built around transition. Like, you just transition flawlessly from I am swinging around to I am now fighting to I am escaping to I'm just walking and helping people. It's an incredibly smooth transition for the type of game it is, for as many hats as it wears.
Yeah, I mean, you feel so much like you're in Spider-Man that there's times where I'm swinging around, I'm about to go to another side mission, and suddenly a random crime occurs, and I can't help myself. I have to stop and hurry up and be responsible and go stop that random crime before going on to my side mission again.
Because that's what Spider-Man would do.
Which is good, because it also helps with your 100%.
When he's late for work, he's still going to stop and help that pedestrian, and then gets super late for work, and then she gets shooed out by his boss. Now, unfortunately, the game doesn't do that; doesn't go that far. But still, like that's what Spider-Man does. He never just leaves someone in need. But for me, like, the best thing about this game by far is the movement. The moving through this city is amazing, and like moving Spider-Man's always been. This isn't. I remember, like, the best thing about the Spider-Man 2 movie game was that they were able to figure out how to get the webbing to stick the buildings and stuff. It made the web shooting feel so much more dynamic than previous games where you just kind of stick your webs into the sky and you just kind of floated through New York. But in this one, like, not only does your webbing stick to buildings, you can run alongside buildings. You can quickly zip line to specific points on buildings and then jump,
pull yourself forward, which
increase your momentum even further. And it's just so incredible and feels so great. And you can just get so much speed out of this if you do it right. And like, it takes some time to really kind of figure out how to do it exactly right. Because like for a while I was just swinging, and then like I would occasionally just kind of run up a building. And then, like, I figured out how you can, like, run alongside buildings and then, like, run along the side of a building and then jump the gap to the next building or jump across the street to the other building to, like, keep your speed going. Then, like, I figured out how to use the zip lining. Once you figure out how to use a zip line in combination with building running and web slinging, you can just move crazy fast. And, it's crazy. And there's even like different unique animations for different parts of buildings. Like, fire escapes. He will change how he runs up a building for a fire escape. It doesn't like say you can't run up this thing because it's a fire escape and just make you stop. They just change the animation. It's just so cool.
It's incredible.
There is a fascinating video by Digital Foundry that breaks it down. Usually whenever you think of Digital Foundry, you think of, well, how exactly are they breaking down the
frame rates
and stuff? But this one, they actually kind of go into how are they able to show all the interiors of the buildings, and it's a little bit of a fascinating trickery that once you notice it, it's like, that's
the one thing that amazed me is
they did it.
You can look inside of buildings and there's interiors for all of them. I mean, the rooms repeat themselves often, but that's still an incredible accomplishment.
They also repeat themselves in literally impossible ways, because you know what? Search for the Digital Foundry of Spider-Man. They break that down. They also
I gotta check that out.
They go into the friggin' puddle gate, that stupid thing where it's like, oh, the game's whatever.
Then in the update they added puddle stickers as one of the little things. That was hilarious.
Yeah, it's kind of, for their first open world game, like,
well,
they made an incredibly good
Sunset Override was their first one. This is their second. But
that was a
Xbox One exclusive.
That
Yeah,
was a
but-
sandbox game?
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, it was an open sandbox.
And it also had
It
really
was a
good
little bit more linear, but it was still, you can go from place to place.
Like, if you play Sunset Overdrive, you'll see how they got from Resistance and Ratchet and Clank to Spider-Man. But, like, yeah, it's still a really huge jump up for them.
Yeah, it was just an absolutely incredible game. And I think the second one is probably the main one we want to talk about.
Well, you guys want to talk about it. I haven't played this game yet because it's
Serious?
$75.
Is the one starring this guy here,
Wait,
at least
which
on the
one?
Switch.
It doesn't
Starlink,
star.
co-starring Star Fox on this Nintendo
Oh, yeah.
Switch.
Star Fox is his team, not
And
his
it's-
name.
Star Fox
Possibly,
it's not Star Fox, it's Star Fox's monster.
Okay.
that's a little Frankenstein little quote there.
Yes,
Um,
thank you for explaining
Reference,
the joke.
but yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is a Toys to Life game. As you can see, I've got this one with the Target exclusive ship, but they give you a controller holder that you place the ship on. And you
basically-
can just stick the Joy-Cons on. It's basically like Skylanders, except it's also mixed with No Man's Sky, where you're going from planet to planet. And each planet has a ton of little missions to do, different environments. And it's actually incredibly engaging and fun to do. And just flying, you can literally, go on the planet, lift off, fly into outer space, do a bunch of different outer space activities, and then fly to
That's
another
so
planet
awesome.
The best
and
way
land and just do a ton of different ships.
the best
Oh, I
way to
forgot-
describe it is it's a combination
There's
it's
also
a
a
combination
pilot at very-
space shooter, like fully free roaming space shooter combined with a third person shooter, because whenever you're actually on a planet, the way the ship controls is much like a third person shooter, except that you're a vehicle. Basically, you have to follow everything that you would in a first person shooter. You have to use cover, you move as you would in a third person shooter, you dodge and bank and just use whatever weapons you have. And it's probably worth mentioning with the weapons that I personally think this is the best realization of the Toys to Life concept that there is, because aside from the pilots, which I was kind of iffy whenever I saw it, well, why would I care who the pilot is? Part of it is the fact that they actually do snap into the ship from the bottom.
And you can visibly see. Oh, I love that is you can visibly see the pilot inside the ship. Kind of.
But beyond that, everything is piecemeal with it. And it's piecemeal in a way that is fascinating, because it doesn't matter what you attach to what. The game is perfectly fine rendering it. For those people watching the video version, all you need is the base ship. You can put a wing on. You could put the wing on backwards if you want.
You can
It'll
put
show
3 wings on it.
You
and
could
it'll
attach
still-
a wing to a wing to a wing.
Wow.
The
I
only,
mean, yeah, your ship will be ultra heavy and won't be able to glide or fly very well.
the only
won't handle,
limitation
won't
is you
have
can
any
only
speed,
have
but-
maximum 2 weapons. So,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
and that's kind of vital to the controller, because the game itself controls basically left trigger is left gun, right trigger's right gun, that kind of thing. But from there, it does play a bit into the standard tropes you expect from an open world game. You get a map. There's a lot of points on the map. Go to those points, solve the things. Hey, there's a guy over here who has a mission for you. What do they have to say? They might have a little bit of story. They say, I want 6 of X, or I want you to defeat these guys. And from that perspective, it's pretty cut and dry. Like, if you've played an Ubisoft open world game, you know in broad strokes what to expect. But the fact that it's
So that's 3
ship-based,
wings together.
and the fact that you have a lot more just freedom to move from planet to planet, that you have this big open world space, and that you get into some pretty amusing and occasionally difficult dogfights between the planes.
Huh.
Is
I
kind
am
of what
still-
the spice of it is.
That's my one nitpick with it is it doesn't doesn't hold your hand well enough to tell you how you should level up each pilot or whatever, how far before you get to this story mission where, like, right now I'm trying to fight this dreadnought and that's just killing me. It's just killing all my ships. And I just cannot beat that area, so I'm going back and doing as many missions as I can. But one thing I do love is how I don't have to, if I don't want to bring up the map and look around for a mission to do, I could just tap the up button on the D-pad and I'll say, hey, what do you got for me? Give me a mission, and it'll instantly give you a mission on that planet.
Huh. Interesting.
It kind of keeps track of the stuff that you're in the middle of doing.
Yeah, and if you do have a story mode mission you want to do, that's on the left and right of the D-pad. But right now, 2 of them, I don't have the level reach enough to do them, but the other one, the Dreadnought one, is the one I'm trying to do, but I'm stuck at, so I'm trying to level up as much as I can.
Now, I've complained about Toys to Life games on here before.
Well,
Especially when you're doing that.
One thing before you go into Toys to Life, you can buy the game digitally. From what I understand, you can buy the ships half the price of what they cost as the full toy versions, except for the Target and GameStop exclusives. But also, I think there's like an $80 to $90 digital version which has all the ships and all the guns to it. If you just want to go that way.
Now,
so that's a good alternative. Plus, any ships that you place down onto the controller, if you want to play, portable, if you just want to play on your
what Jason's trying to get at is
Controller
you can mix
you can
and
play it
match
digitally
physical and digital in whatever ways you want. If you want this ship digital, you can get it digital. If you want it physical, you can get it physical. The thing that I'm discovering is if you want physical, as I am getting and investing unreasonable amounts of money into.
Yes, you definitely have.
It will save your ships digitally for 7 days before they need you to scan them again.
Yeah.
So, in my case,
and that's just really handy. That is just
in my case,
incredible.
I'm thinking about doing some traveling soon. As long as I have my ships in play, as long as I've scanned my ships before I've left, I can keep them with me.
Or alternatively, you could get a big old backpack and fill it full of spaceships and take it with you.
Yeah, the only downside is that the PS2 and Xbox One versions, one, don't come with Star Fox, obviously, and he's not in the game at all. But 2, they come with Mason's ship, which you cannot buy separately right now. But the Switch version in Europe, I found out this about the European sales, 85% of Starlink sales are the Switch version. Yet
well,
the main
of course,
pilot,
it has Star Fox in it.
One of the pilots that come with it. Yeah, that's exactly.
By which I mean the team of Star Fox, the entire team of Star Fox.
This is the strategy that third parties on Nintendo have discovered is, what if we put a Nintendo character in it? Like, what if we put Ganondorf in Diablo 3? What if we add, I don't know, Link stuff into Skyrim? What if we make a game about Rabbids meeting all the Mario characters?
And what's incredible about the Star Fox and Starlink is he's so integrated into it. You think he's just going to be a cameo character that you could play as alternately, like Donkey Kong or Bowser were in. Here's Donkey Kong in Skylanders, where he's just plays a small role. He does not play a small role. He's actually in almost every other cutscene in the game. So. And it feels like him and his team have come hunting for Star Wolf, and they encounter these group, and now they're helping this group. If you have the skills, you could play as just Star Fox through the whole thing, pretty much.
So,
and that's just absolutely amazing how much Star Fox is integrated.
I have said on the show before that I'm not really the biggest fan of Toys to Life. Yeah. I had lots of bones to pick about that freaking Lego game. I did not like the Lego game, but this is like the first Toys to Life game that I am genuinely really, really interested in.
Can I know a differentiating factor here? The Lego game was a freaking Lego game.
Yeah, the Lego game was a Lego game, but it was a poorly designed Lego game.
It was a Lego game.
If you want to play,
that does not account for the size of a living room.
It was a Lego game. In every
Most
sense
Lego
of the
games-
word, it was a Lego
Most
game.
Lego games just let you switch characters by pressing a button, not by getting up off the couch, walking over to where you have to put the portal, and moving the characters around. God damn, it was annoying. Anyway, as I've been trying to get to for like the last 10 minutes, I'm really into this game because the toys are cool. They're freaking spaceships. The spaceships are really well designed. And the actual gameplay looks really cool. It's not just like this basic platformer with basic brawling elements that is Skylanders. It's like it looks really in depth, really neat. You can like and like the ways you can switch around wings and weapons, and like you can turn the gun around and make it shoot behind you for some stupid reason
There's no reason
I guess
to do
might
that.
be useful. Well, you can do it. I don't know. Maybe if you want one gun to be able to shoot enemies that are tailing you or something.
I appreciate that they let you do it, even if it is stupid.
But like,
If
the only downside about this game for me, and the reason why I don't own it yet, is that yes, there's a digital version for $60, which comes with a couple pilots, but this has Star Fox McCloud in it. Fox McCloud.
Well, even the Switch digital version has Fox McCloud.
Yeah, I know, but I want the R-Wing. I actually want these toys, Jason.
Yeah, what's incredible is the paint job on each pilot is so intricate.
Like, if they sold the R-Wing on its own, I might just go digital, but they don't. So, like, I'm kind of doing a rock and a hard place now.
Love the figurine. Love it.
Let's see if it'll focus on that.
Yeah, it's not coming through, Jason. The camera ain't focusing.
There you go.
I don't know.
That is
kind of derpy.
Looking snazzy.
That is some very tiny details, though. I think it's a pretty good paint job for something that small.
Eventually, I am going to own this because the gameplay is right up my alley. I have a love for space shooters going all the way back to the X-Wing games on the PC, albeit this one isn't as in-depth as those, but still, like, you're flying through space and killing enemies. And the visuals just look really cool. Everything about this game just appeals to me in a way that no other Toys to Life game has ever come close to.
Yeah, well, it's technically not a Star Fox game. It's the best Star Fox game since Star Fox 64.
I mean, unless you like Star Fox Zero, like, me.
No.
Then maybe there's some competition, but since I haven't played it yet, I can't say anything. But I will probably own this by Christmas, because I have it on my wish list for Christmas, and my parents like me, so we'll see.
Yeah, or you can wait till Black Friday. There's always good sales then.
I'm not going to bother Black Friday, hoping on Thanksgiving.
One thing I wanted to bring up really shortly, I just returned Assassin's Creed Odyssey to GameFly because was going to rent Red Dead Redemption 2. And I found out that they weren't going to have it available for like 2 weeks after its release date.
Oh, yeah.
I still have my Gamers Club unlock going, so I got it for $48 at Best Buy.
I heard GameFly. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, it's actually a great game. I'm not going to diss too hard on it. It is the graphics are probably the best I've ever seen in a video game period for Red Dead Redemption 2. It is very slow going at first because you're stuck in a blizzard way up on a hill. You're with an outlaw gang trying to outrun the law, which you eventually do. And then eventually you get to camp near this town called Valentine, where you can do a bunch of different activities. But
like pet dogs.
Pet dogs are...
Give me the distant view of this, Jason. Like, what is the game?
Okay, it's a Western. It's a sequel to Red Dead Redemption. It is a Western where you play as one of several outlaws in a gang that this leader called Dutch is the leader of, which is repetitive what I'm saying there. You're Arthur Morgan, I think is his last name. I know his first name's Arthur. He's just one of the kind of the henchman guys. That's part of my problem is I don't really feel like he should be the central character. He's kind of a little bit of a dullard who gets a little bit more mature as the game goes on. So you screwed up on this one bank heist in this one town, and so you had to run away from the law. That's why you're get get away from the law in this big blizzard, which you have to wait out for a few months, and that takes up about an hour of the game. That's the most slow-going part, is the very beginning, until you get to this town called Valentine. And eventually you'll leave there to other towns and other cities in which that's the one thing Arthur doesn't like, is he doesn't want to go into civilization. He prefers to be the outlaw way of the Old West, but the modern world is starting to creep in on him. And it's an open world game. You could take your horse and go anywhere, and something always happens, usually on your way from point A to point B. Some of the problems I have with that, though, is there is no way to shortcut that in any way until later in the game when you upgrade your camping site. Then you can actually shortcut, I found out later. But outside of that, when you're riding your horse, you can go into cinematic mode by holding down the touch button.
Yeah, I've been seeing that on social media lately.
That doesn't work very good because stuff always happens on your trail. There's always little events. Sometimes these guys called the I think it's the McCormick boys or something like that. McDalt, I forget their names exactly. But this rival gang will come after you while you're running, and if you go out to make a sandwich or something while you're in auto mode going from point A to point B, they'll fire at you. So you got to watch out for that. There's no way to shortcut that. So part of the problem is that I've been, besides several podcasts, which I kind of agree with, is that this did not evolve its gameplay formula at all from Red Dead Redemption back in 2010. The exact same things you do from that game are involved in this one.
I'm perfectly fine with that. The first one was pretty damn good.
Well, like when you whistle for your horse, he's got to be within whistling range, and he'll go, and he'll take a few minutes to walk around something that's blocking him, and then he'll trot up to you, then slow down about 20 feet from you till you just have to run over to him to get on your horse. Where when I'm playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I whistle for my horse, and he magically appears off camera behind me, and I look around, I'm like, oh, there he is.
That's not realistic, Jason.
It's not realistic, but that's the thing, is it's also a bit of a survival game where you have to watch what you're eating. You have to keep your horse happy by feeding him and brushing him, and doing all these other little finite activities that aren't really necessary for the enjoyment of the game.
Man, you are not selling me
that
on this.
kind of nitpick. It's a lot of little things that we really don't need, where games like Assassin's Creed Odyssey just like help skip that unimportant stuff. Like I said, like in every Assassin's Creed game, you climb up the highest peak, look around the city, and drop into a stupid pile of leaves for some reason, which somehow doesn't kill you, and now counts as a shortcut for fast travel. Where in this one, you have to wait until you evolve your camp, and the only place you can fast travel to is your camp. You can't fast travel to any town or anything like that.
Well,
everything requires to be on your horse.
If I sell you on this, Alex, and I haven't played it, so I can't speak to it.
One thing I'll say though, graphically, it's incredible, and it's the most interactive game as far as. There was one point where I was walking the trail, and some guy got bit by a rattler, and I walked up to him, sucked the poison out of him, spit it out. A few missions later, I was just in town, and the guy recognized me, and they said, "Hey, I'm a friend with the local gunsmith. You saved my life. You can get anything free in that gunsmith, for one time only." So I got a free gun out of it.
Which kind of goes into what I was going to suggest is, I can tell you by some of the conversations I'm hearing around it, this much like something like Breath of the Wild is going to be a game about, here's events that you have stumbled into. Here's things that our random number generator have kind of developed that you are thrown into. Sometimes they're related to bugs that you experience, sometimes not. And it's just going to be, what do you do? And we will acknowledge what you do, and we will remember what you do. And that might affect things long term. It might just affect things short term, but that is at least the impression I get. So if that's the game that you're looking for, that might be akin to what you want.
Yeah, I'm being kind of nitpicky here. It's still like an 8 out of 10 for me. I mean, I'm actually enjoying it the further I get into it, but there's still little things about this open world where the design hasn't changed where it should have after 8 years.
So, Chris, what do you think you're going to? What are you going to try to sell me?
I was only going to sell you on the idea that it is a game about stumbling into events.
Oh, so you're talking about Red Dead Redemption 2. Okay.
Right.
All right. So, Chris, you should probably go next.
I succeed my time to our guest.
Oh, neat.
Do you have any games you've been playing lately, Misty?
Well, I've been playing Super Smash Bros. For the 3DS, and what I like about it is just like it's really fun. It's like it gets me energetic, and I'm always playing it. And I get competitive, so if I'm playing against my friends, I'm always have that competitive face.
So, are you more of a? Do you have the community around you to actually play that game, multiplayer locally,
no.
or?
No, I usually play like on I usually just play on like online. So sometimes my friends will be near me and then we'll play it in a while.
Do you have a Nintendo Switch, or are you looking forward to the new Smash Brothers?
I don't have a Switch.
Yeah, I don't have it yet. Yeah, we'll be going into Smash Brothers news a little later because a lot came out of the Smash Brothers thing from yesterday.
I actually seen the trailers and stuff, and I really liked it.
That piranha plant. That piranha plant looks like something else.
Yeah, and I'm excited for Wreck-It Ralph as well, and because Sonic's in it.
So,
yeah.
Who do you usually play in Smash Brothers 3DS?
I usually play Pit and Rosalina.
Ah,
For
neat.
some reason, I'm really good with Pac-Man. I've always liked Pac-Man in that game.
I suck at everybody, but so I just play the characters I like. And I don't know. I'm actually starting to get really good at Captain Falcon, or at least good relative to me. But
Captain Falcon's
he's fun
supposed to be
use.
one of the top characters, so yeah, it's a good idea to get good at him.
I never realized he could be so fast.
Jason, take your tier numbers and get out of here. Just get out.
I've also been I've also been trying really hard with Bayonetta, who
Well,
is Uber tier.
You should always just play with the person you enjoy the most playing as.
Bayonetta, Sonic, any sword character, Samus. Anyway,
is there any other games you want to talk about, Alex?
No. Well, like we're still on Misty, right?
Yeah, Misty. Was there any other games?
It appears she stepped out a bit for a second.
Okay,
So,
she had to step out
whenever
for a
she
sec.
has returned, Alex, if you have nothing else, I could.
I do have games, but I wanted to go after you two. So
Okay. I can talk about Sonic Mania.
yay!
If you remember, last episode about last month, I had basically been quiet during our Sonic Mania discussion because I did not get Plus. I had maybe put in 8 hours of the game prior, and according to the vague Nintendo estimates at this point, I'm now up to 30.
Oh wow!
I
Alright.
have basically completed an all-emerald run of Sonic and Tails, Knuckles, and I've completed Ray's story. I'm in the middle of Mighty. It looks like I'll probably have all the emeralds by the end of it. The only thing I'm really actually missing is an all-emerald run of Encore, and I will say, Encore is extremely interesting. Like, Encore is, in my eyes, the almost ideal way that I would want to play a classic Sonic Genesis game like that. Just the way that it is harder. And the way it's harder is not necessarily that the levels are designed particularly more difficult. The hard part in it comes with the fact that when you die, you get thrown into a new character, but more significantly, that new character doesn't have rings.
Huh.
So what you face with that is you get a couple extra hits, but you don't get the same number of extra hits that you would get if you just had a traditional live system.
And not to mention, those hits are way more costly too.
They are very costly.
Yeah, at
But
the same time, you can have up to like 5 characters with you at once.
yeah,
Well,
but
not at once, but in monitors.
you can, but that just kind of limits you to 5 hits or maybe like 6 hits before you can get a game over, which is particularly significant in some of the harder boss battles. But,
Yeah, it's incredible low game. I'm not that big on the bonus levels, the pinball, because it didn't seem like there wasn't too much to that except for getting some more characters and
it
some
is
additional items.
literally get more characters. Once
Or
you get
shields.
once you get all the blue sphere stuff and get sent there, you can get shields, you can get rings. They replace the blue sphere stages if you've collected and defeated and perfected all the blue sphere stages in just the regular game.
I haven't done that, and I get the pinball stages.
It might.
Oh wait, were you talking about Encore mode or the regular game?
Regular game.
Oh, okay, all right.
Encore
I was
mode.
thinking
Encore
about
mode. It's
Encore mode.
always regular game.
Yeah.
It's after you've gotten all the blue sphere stuff.
But I like pinball to a point, but it really did kind of need either more Borgs or different Borgs or
Here's the thing.
something, because it does get repetitive.
It's just not good pinball. Like, it literally
Yeah, I
is not
guess.
good pinball.
I mean, in fairness, I don't think Sonic's ever had good pinball.
I like Spinball. I like Pinball Party. I think Pinball
I like
Party's
Pinball
okay.
Party. I like
I've
Pinball
never
Party.
played
okay.
Pinball Party, so but I don't know. Sonic Adventures pinball, at the very least, is kind of not all that great either.
No, the
I like it because of
physics
the-
are bad.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
And I guess the other thing that I could talk about is I then also got it for PC, which means I've been playing with modding tools.
Mods. Yes, you've been showing us the pictures.
I've been
Excite
doubling down like I
me,
do
yeah.
sometimes.
Here's the thing, Jason. I doubled down specifically on this one because I knew that the modding community for it would be relatively strong. And I am not disappointed. I am slightly disappointed because they've been able to crack very easily the ability to swap sprite sheets. And the way that this particular engine is designed is you could just make a sprite sheet in an open source image editor, and as long as you put in the time to make them all, there is software out there to edit all of the character animations to match whatever your new sprite sheet is. There's tools out there to adjust palettes. It takes time to find all the tools. It's not extremely easy to do, but you can create or you can modify an entire set of character sprites without needing to know any programming knowledge at all. At most, you'll need to understand the structure of how GIF images work with limited palettes. And with that, my long-term, currently on hiatus project has been a almost full reskin of the game characters as Excite bikes. I don't know why I decided
I've
on
seen
this.
Because it's funny, Chris.
Because it is funny. Because it is
Yes.
funny. And you know what the funniest version of that is? Freedom Planet. Because Freedom Planet proved that the best way to have a Sonic platformer is to have the character ride a motorcycle in 2D platforming.
Okay, well, then I have a question. Can your Excite Bike dude get off of his bike and run around?
Absolutely not. That would require
All right.
gameplay programming.
So it's not, it's...
There have been
not
some
that
really
comprehensive.
interesting mods. I think easily my favorite so far has been in the latest Sage this year has been a mod that works with Plus that basically converts it into Mario Kart, or imports Mario Kart stages as the special stages of the game, and that's been amazing. I also think it's worth mentioning that I've gotten proficient at a lot of the stages. Obviously, the Encore ones are harder. I can give you tips to be better at the special stages, and tip number 1 is you have to be on top of things from the first lap. You cannot fall behind. You have to, number 1 priority, get those blue spheres, and you have to be cutting corners all the time.
Hi.
Hey there, Misty.
Welcome back. I was just
Sorry.
talking about Sonic Mania and my
Oh yeah.
dumbass mod for it.
So
After
I
he's done,
do
we can
that
get back to
sometimes
you.
too. I have to leave myself when it just happens. Is
So,
there anything you wanted to talk to about, Alex, as far as games
there
you
is,
played?
but first, Chris. So your suggestion is basically don't choke if you want to beat the special stages in Encore mode.
No, it's not don't choke, but
No.
you have to treat your first lap as if it's already your third lap.
Huh. I don't know if I can do that. Misty, now you played Smash Brothers. Have you been playing any other games lately that you want to talk about?
Not really. I played Smash Brothers for the Wii U. I only have the Wii U console right now because I'm planning on getting the Switch for probably Black Friday because that's like
Neat.
my goal to get. Yeah.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, Alex? Or are we gonna move on?
Oh
to some
yeah,
Sonic
like
news?
I have been playing loads of games lately because three things, but I'm only going to talk about one thing. I mean, obviously one thing with Spider-Man, which we've already done. The other thing is I got my Dreamcast back online. I managed to play some Alien Front online for the first time in 15 years. But the main thing for me for the past month until about a week ago was a pseudo Saturn cartridge that lets me play burned games on my Sega Saturn, which is wonderful because I can now play games that cost anywhere between $100 to $500 for the price of a CDR. And I have been using that a lot lately. Yes, like the unfortunate thing about the Sega Saturn is that a lot of its best games, especially its exclusive games, are all significantly overpriced because of the collector's market.
Specifically,
so,
the English versions.
Well, yeah, the English versions, but even some of the Japanese games are now getting up in price. One of the games I played, Ninpen Manmaru, which is like a C-tier 3D platformer for the Saturn that I've been into lately, that thing's going for over $100 on eBay. I've never even heard of this game.
Have you had a chance to play Panzer Dragoon Saga at all?
Well, I own that game, so yeah, but
Was there any doubt, Jason?
I bought that game back when it was like a quarter of the price it is now.
He has a shrine in his closet specifically dedicated to that game. He gives it
That
offerings
franchise.
He
One
gives
of
it
my
offerings
big
every
regrets-
Four
week.
games.
Just to show how old I am, also, one of my big regrets is I was working at EB Games when the final 4 Saturn games, including Panzer Dragoon Saga and Burning Rangers, came in, and I bought Burning Rangers and Panzer Dragoon Saga, but I didn't really hold on to them. I eventually sold them. I think I sold them more than what I paid for them.
Fun fact:
Still-
I own 3 of the final 5, and they've all quadrupled in price since I got them. The collector's market is just insane. Anyway, I'm getting away from my main point, which is the pseudo Saturn and playing overpriced burnt games. But I'm not going to talk about all of them. But among the things I've played have been Sonic Z Stream, which is a sort of a homebrew recreation of Sonic Extreme, utilizing the 3D maps and some of the enemy assets from the actual game. And also Radiant.
Radiant Silver?
No, not Radiant Silver is actually another one I technically bought many years ago. But Magic Knight Ray Earth.
Magic Knight Raider. That was one of the final 4.
Yeah, that's one of the. Yeah, Magic Knight Ray Earth, Shining Wisdom, Ninpen Manmaru, KO Flying Squadron 2, which was probably the most surprising one so far. And let's see. Also the fan translation of the Kojima classic Police Knots. So Sonic Z Stream is something I'd actually like to devote some time to in the future, in like maybe the main show if we can. But basically, like the most interesting thing you can really talk about is like the graphics and the level design. In terms of 3D graphics, this game has it's pretty impressive for a home effort. Like it's actually probably some of the most impressive 3D graphics I've seen on the system, because you got great draw distance, frame rate runs at a smooth 30 frames, everything's in polygons, and I guess that's all I really have to talk about in regards to graphics. But go on.
In your experience playing this broad swath of Saturn games, I guess my big question would be, what is your big takeaway from the experience? Because you and I historically have kind of, we'll say, diverged in opinion in regard to the legacy of the Saturn.
Well, the Sega Saturn, the Sega Saturn's best games are all basically more simplistic arcade games and shooters, and some really strong and some really good role playing games like Dragon Force and Shining Force 3. And but I haven't. But in terms of what the Pseudo Saturn has shown to me, basically it's just that.
You should also say it's a killer 2D system. They had some of the best 2D games out there.
Yeah.
Some of the Capcom fighters, including X-Men versus Street Fighter.
The Sega Saturn had really impressive 2D capabilities for the time, and actually, like the games, some of those games still look great now in terms of 2D. Yeah,
and those particular 2D games were the ones that like even the PlayStation couldn't do at the time.
But basically, for me, the Sega Saturn has aged pretty well because of its heavy focus on side-scrolling titles. Something that you told me, Chris, has kind of helped me understand our divergence, is that you're not really a big fan of arcadey titles, simplistic, like shmups, rail shooters, those kinds of games. And that stuff is like kind of one of the 3 pillars of the Sega Saturn for any English speaker.
Yes.
Like, if you don't like those games, then that's a huge, really high-quality part of the library that you're just not going to be into.
And unfortunately, if you don't have a CRT TV, the light gun shooters are pretty much dead now, too.
Yeah.
Even if you have the hardware, you still have to have a CRT TV.
That's one reason why my Saturn's connected to one.
I would say, like, in terms of arcadiness, my heart is always just going to be with the Dreamcast because of the types of arcadey games that it had. Things along the lines of your Jet Set radios, your Crazy Taxis, your Typing of the Dead, that kind of stuff.
I wouldn't call Jet Set Radio an arcade game.
I would not call it an arcade game. I would call it an arcadey game, because a lot of that game structure has the arcade feel of tightness and has a bit of arcade in terms of its design.
I guess.
It's objective.
I've always thought of it
driven,
as more
it's
of a
time-driven, it's...
Dreamcast probably had the best catalog for the most short-lived system.
That's definitely true.
Like 2.5 to 3 years tops.
But we're kind of getting
a great library.
But honestly, I'm starting to wonder if maybe we should hold off on the game talk until next time.
Okay, you're kind of drifting off, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I didn't even get to finish what I was saying about Sonic Z Stream before we just went off on a tangent.
Well,
go ahead.
I would say I would say you're welcome to put some more time into it, and we can recollect our thoughts.
I guess I did at least want to talk about the level design in Z Stream. That's because that is the one thing that unquestionably was carried over from the core, from the extreme games to this thing. And it's interesting because if you look at it in kind of a microcosm of platformers from 1996, which is, we're going to ignore Bubsy and say Mario 64 and Crash.
Can we please ignore Bubsy? Like, can we please?
Yeah, because
his culture is not letting
coming.
us.
Yes, we're going to ignore Bubsy.
Another one. A second.
basically, you know how Crash is super linear and Mario 64 is pretty open. This game is in the middle, where it's like the levels aren't as open as Mario 64, but they are way more explorable than Crash. And it's actually kind of a really interesting take on 3D Sonic because it's kind of the only 3D Sonic game where exploration is actually actively encouraged for Sonic himself.
It seems like in a Sonic game where you're not going to be able to move too fast for anything.
Oh, there are areas fast. There are there are straightaways and stuff, and there are boosts, and it's kind of dependent on the level, but it's much more of a platformer than Sonic Adventure. Now, the game does definitely feel unfinished in areas, but overall, like for a homebrew game, it's a really amazing effort, and hopefully we'll be able to talk about it more later because we got to move on to other things.
Yeah. All right. I hope you don't hear this fan too loudly. All right. Now I gotta go on to Sonic at the movies. And the first thing up is the Sonic the Hedgehog movie has wrapped up its production as far as filming goes.
Yay!
Which was mostly done in a small town, and I guess the rest was done in a studio lot. The small town was counted as Green Hill, and then the rest was done on a studio lot. When they wrapped up, they said, "Okay, we repainted your areas and made everything look like this. If you want to keep it that way, you can. If you want to restore it back to the way it was, you can do that. That's like all up to you guys." So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I guess I wonder if other locations do that. Like, hey, if this film becomes famous, you can make it look like it was.
You figure it's probably easier for them to say, we could also not do this work restoring it to its original.
Yeah, really. You can just leave and you can repaint it yourself. But then again, I'm sure they paid them for the time they're there.
So we figured they were saying, was it summer 2019?
No, November
2019. So that probably gives them a year to basically do all the post-production stuff, add in all the CG, and
that's
hopefully get us a trailer at some point.
That's about a year of post-production is, I think, pretty typical for a big-budget movie from a studio, which I guess this might qualify as. I don't know.
I'm very, very curious to see what Jim Carrey will look like as Dr. Eggman.
We didn't get any set pictures of him, did we?
Here's the thing.
No, because he wasn't on set. He was on a studio lot.
Wow! I know there was a moment at a time when people were saying this is Jim Carrey and was like a completely different actor, but a guy with a beard and stuff. I don't know where they got he was Eggman, but I'm a bit surprised we haven't seen Jim Carrey yet.
The thing I'm more curious about is we haven't seen what their interpretation of Sonic is going to look like or sound like or act like.
Yeah, that's also true.
And that is going to be the make or break for it. Like, we can sort of draw some aspects out of it, knowing the voice actor and some of the other things that he's been in, because his portrayals of Dewey Duck on the current DuckTales and Leonardo in Rise of the Ninja Turtles is very much of a type.
I think he'll do fine in the role.
I think he'll do fine.
But
it
certainly
depends on what he's working with.
Voice director. Well, it depends on the material, but it also depends on the voice director. Like, voice directors can make a voice actor's performance really shitty if that's what they really want. Like, 4Kids hired oh my god, I forgot his name. Mike Pollock, right? That's the name of the Eggman. Mike Pollock, who's amazing. And they made him mediocre because that's what 4Kids does. So I don't know. Hopefully they got a good voice director for this.
And we're waiting until November 2019 for the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Sonic the Hedgehog will be in another movie in November this year with Wreck-It Ralph. Which, if you were watching the final World Series where my poor Dodgers were getting absolutely wrecked, there was a 10-second trailer where Sonic was actually the featured character almost in trailer where he's explained to Ralph about what Wi-Fi is and that Wi-Fi.
It's pronounced Wi-Fi, Ralph.
I'm kind of
and he had I think the most lines out of that 10-second spot.
I'm kind of weirded by this movie at this point because there's
I am too.
There's until very recently the all of the marketing has been, here's all the funny jokes we have. Look at all
Disney
these references.
princesses.
We have all these references, and it wasn't until I would say when I went to go see a recent movie that they actually. No, it wasn't even a movie. It was online. It was a trailer I was able to find on YouTube. That I actually found. Hey, this movie's gonna have a plot.
Yeah.
Which I mean,
I actually still don't know what the
took a
plot
long
is
time
aside from
before they finally got to the plot of it.
and the
aside
plot.
from Ralph.
Do you want to know?
Ralph goes
Do you
the
want to know the plot, or do you want to leave that up to mystery?
Well, no,
well,
I mean it's a trailer.
well,
The trailers give away most of it.
Misty, do you want to hear the plot?
Sure. I'm down.
Might as well.
The core issue that arises in the movie, that as soon as I found out, wait a minute, this movie has a problem, I was very happy about, because that's storytelling, not just references. Basically, part of the Candy Racer
Sugar Rush.
Sugar Rush board, whatever. Part of the Sugar Rush racing game breaks. So Ralph, which puts it out of order. So Ralph and Vanellope go to the internet in order to find replacement parts for it. And as they are doing so, they encounter an online game. They encounter an online street racing game that Vanellope really takes to, and Ralph becomes worried that he's losing a friend.
So they basically went on the internet to download a ROM.
No, to
to
buy a
they went on the
steering
internet
wheel
to go
off of
on
eBay.
to purchase a steering wheel to fix their game.
Oh, you mean the actual machine broke? I thought you said like something was wrong with the code.
There's a scene where the
Why are they buying a
trying
steering
to
wheel?
fix the steering wheel, and the steering wheel breaks into two pieces, so they have to get a new steering wheel for that game.
You know how
What?
arcade
Although,
games just
like,
break.
Here's what I understand.
Wouldn't the arcade owner buy the replacement part? Isn't that his job?
These
I
are
guess
these are
that's
questions
buying it
that
for
aren't
him.
addressed in the world of Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah, like where is this cash coming from? Oh yeah, somehow
In the world of Wreck-It Ralph, they all get
I'll
together
tell you
in the hub of a power strip.
which makes absolutely no sense because the power strip wouldn't have any kind of digital code.
And arcade machines that can somehow go online, that don't have any connection to the internet, characters can go online.
Oh, and an important plot point from the first one is wiped out, which is that Vanellope can't leave Sugar Rush because she's a glitch, and now she can, apparently.
Well, presumably they'll probably address that in the movie.
Anyway, another thing is that, they're buying the thing off of eBay, but since they're not buying it with his money, they figure out a way to hook up to like YouTube or one of these things to make silly videos of Wreck-It Ralph to make him go viral, so he'll get the cash to pay for the steering wheel.
We don't really need to hear the entire plot.
I'm just happy to know there is a plot. That there are characters that are going to be characters.
It's not just guest stars. It's not just Disney princesses or Vanellope running past Nick Wilde and what have you.
I'm fairly certain I've talked about this before, but just as a reminder, I'm not the biggest fan of the original Wreck-It Ralph.
I loved it.
So hopefully this one will present some improvements.
Did you have something to say,
Misty?
I see her fingers up. She's like,
yeah. I was supposed to say, speaking of, the characters and stuff, I was surprised seeing the Disney princesses when Vanellope would just go like interact with these Disney. She's all like, "Oh my god!"
I had no idea that this was going to have those kinds of cameos in it. I mean, although I really enjoyed, honestly, I may enjoy this more for its non-gaming cameos than I did Wreck-It Ralph for its gaming cameos, because these seem to be more fleshed out. I think
it's too early to say that.
We've seen so much from that Disney princess thing. I think we can at least say that about
Yeah,
them.
the merchandise has Disney princesses in it, even on this one, which of course they can do because Disney owns them all.
Yeah. Like they're
I'm
definitely
excited.
taking advantage of everything that their parent corporation owns, which is
Star Wars.
all of your childhood.
Yeah, and it does seem like they're kind of pushing Sonic to help sell the movie again. Like if you remember in the first one, they did show a tiny bit of Sonic in trailers, but there was also a poster where Sonic was front and center, and everybody else was on the side. There were several posters where they'd have one character in the front and center, but he was the only video game character I think that was front and center in that one.
I'm a bit
And on
disappointed.
this one now, they're having Sonic just featured primarily in just that 10-second trailer.
Now, I believe it
Yeah.
came out recently that Mario will not be in this one.
No, he wasn't in this first one.
Yeah, I know, but I know that there was
Yeah.
some hope that he might be in the second one.
They expressed interest after the first one was released in
Yeah.
having Mario in it, but they said, but if we're going to have him, we want him to have a bigger role. It's not entirely surprising though, now that Nintendo has their agreements with Universal in regard to Mario movie.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
If you want Nintendo news, the Universal Studios Hollywood,
I don't like
Land's
Nintendo
on its way, and I'm definitely going to go to that.
Why
now-
can't they ever?
California, Jason.
Why can't they ever build these?
Yeah.
Sorry.
We both live in California, Jason. We got
Yeah.
Disneyland and.
Why
Yeah,
can't they ever build these things in my Hollywood? My Hollywood's nice. Florida Hollywood.
I know. I'm
That's what
in a
talking
great
about.
spot. So they got Disneyland back here. I'm about an hour and a half away from Universal. About
Actually,
45 minutes from Disneyland. So
Alex, doesn't Universal in Florida have an additional park?
I think so. Yeah, that's why when I first heard about this, I was kind of hoping it was Florida, but no.
I
California.
believe they are doing the Nintendo stuff in their secondary park, and that they've expanded the scope of it.
Oh, so what you're saying is my Florida might be getting this.
Don't quote me on it. It's just I may be misremembering the facts, but
Well, I hope you aren't. I'd like to go to this.
Alrighty, and I'm going on to the next news. Team Sonic Racing, and this is a bit of a surprise. I know it wasn't going along as well as they'd hoped, I think, but Team Sonic Racing got pushed back to May 21st of 2019.
I
It
was
was
hoping for it to come out.
Yeah, it was originally saying coming this winter, which could be anywhere from November to February, and now it's been pushed back to May 21st. I think they're probably been getting. I don't know if it's anything to do with the game engine or design. From what me and Alex played at E3, the graphics seemed to be coming along okay.
It was typical for an E3 demo.
It was 30 frames a second, sometimes sub 30 frames a second, but it was still early in development, but it was going along good. Handling I thought was really good. I think the main problem that could be the reason for the delay and what they're focusing on is the design itself. I think they're probably getting some feedback on it where people aren't as happy with that, because like I've been saying, I'm not too happy with trying my best to keep my team up, but if I get in first place and they're in last place and I end up second or third, bronze trophy, I'm not going to be happy as a player.
And I would just like to remind our listeners that did actually happen to me in the E3 demo. Like if that particular mode, which appears to be the core of the game, in single player doesn't really work great. Now, as I understand, there was going to be like a whole story mode with a whole bunch of different missions.
Yeah, there's a story mode.
Ones where you just race on your own. So that wasn't going to be the entire game. But I don't know. As the main gimmick, I guess didn't work well as a single player experience, and maybe they're improving that. I guess
it's a weird situation where they're relying very highly on the AI. So unless the AI is able to really tune in on what your character is doing and kind of be able to work on matching that, then it doesn't make a lot of sense as a single-player experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something that's really got to be focused more on, because most people are going to be playing this primarily as single player, and multiplayer is going to be the secondary, online and stuff. So it's something that's got to really be worked out. I'm sorry if I interrupted anybody over here, because you guys got cut off from time to time.
Oh no!
So I'm having a little bit of delay issues.
Right.
Yeah, that's the only reason I could think of the main delay.
Now, the main delay is because it takes time to work out these deals to put in characters like Wreck-It Ralph and Danica Patrick. And as we know, there's a new Wreck-It Ralph movie. They've clearly made the deal to kind of have Sonic be an important part of it. So whenever I look at this delay for Sonic Team Racing, I see, well, they're probably still going to put Wreck-It Ralph in, and they're definitely going to put Danica Patrick in because she's the
Blu-ray
best Sonic
release.
character.
Or
If
alternatively,
it was Wreck-It Ralph, it'd be just in time for its
they
Blu-ray.
could put Rio Hazuki and his forklift in there. I think that'd be worthwhile. Misty, do you have any thoughts on the delay?
What? What's that again? Say it again.
Do you have any thoughts on the delay?
No. Like, for the delay, well, what I thought about it is like when I found out it was gonna, change dates, I was like, oh, that's a bummer. I was like looking forward to see the game and possibly, get it.
You know what, though?
And then now,
I think this is a better summer game than holiday game. Like,
I do agree.
especially this holiday.
Like, basically, this thing was going to be competing with Smash Brothers.
This thing would be in direct competition with Smash Brothers.
Call of
And
Duty and
Smash
Red
Brothers
Dead and
would
all these.
bury it.
And even if this thing was as good as Transformed, I would not be confident.
This could actually be the main reason why they are delayed. Get it away from all the heavy competition.
Yeah, although I don't know, I'm hoping that they're using 6 months is a heck of a delay. They just wanted to get past the Smash Brothers competition. They could have delayed until January or February, but no, they pushed it all the way back to May. And so I'm thinking that they must be working on something substantial, but like not rebuilding the game, but not just tightening up some screws either. There's something between those two things.
I don't
Right.
know.
Anyway,
I don't know.
speaking of disappointment, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, given the history of quality control issues regarding Sega, and especially Sega contracting out to third parties, it would not surprise me if this was literal time in order to make sure that the game is done. Because Sega has had problems with that in the past. Very significant problems. Sometimes with the Sonic franchise, sometimes with the Aliens franchise.
There could be something that just wasn't evident in E3 demos, since the E3 demos tend to represent the game in its best light anyway.
The E3 demos showed off the engine and the track.
That we just don't know about.
And sometimes the delay could be very beneficial, because you look at Fire and Ice on the 3DS, which was delayed an entire year, and I think that was a huge improvement over Shattered Crystal in comparison. And I think that year they took off to redo the engine or redesign stuff really helped it out.
That is probably the best of the Boom games. Now, Jason, I know you were really wanted to have that transition, but there's another piece of Team Sonic Racing news that you don't have in the notes, and that is we have music for a new track.
We do.
Sandopolis. Sandopolis is going to be in the game, and specifically Act 2 of Sandopolis. So
that means, I guess, I think there was also King Boom Boo is in the game in some way as well.
He is.
Well, you see, Sandopolis, the Sandopolis track takes place inside the pyramid with all the ghosts.
Right.
And that may provide some interesting gameplay opportunities.
that may provide more of an opportunity for you to not be able to complain about they're only showing us these two things.
Yes, I know. Actually, it will. I'm actually really happy about this track because, like, it's from an older point in Sonic's history. It's from a more obscure, and it's from a level that hasn't ever really been referenced since the original game. So
They cannot reuse the assets of Sky Sanctuary to make this level.
yeah. So yeah, I am starting to get a bit happier with the track selection. It's not just obligatory green level, obligatory snow level. Now we got Spagonia, which I think looks pretty nice for a city level, and we got this, which I'm really looking forward to seeing it in action.
Me too. I'm really stoked about this game. So excited.
Yeah, so it's well, that's a bit of a disappointment. But speaking of disappointments,
There's nothing
earlier
disappointing
this
about
week,
Sindopolis.
I'm not unhappy about the delay. I don't need this game this year. I might need this game
pretty happy
summer
with
of
the delay,
next year.
I'm sure there's a lot of Sonic fans that'd be disappointed that but it's probably for the best.
Sonic fans are getting a better Sonic game this year.
That's true, Sonic Mania Plus.
I was referring to Smash Brothers.
Yeah, speaking of, it looks like practically the entire Sonic cast is in Smash Brothers in a certain way. There was a rumor earlier this week with some
JPEGs.
fake artwork that was blurred that made it look like Shadow and all these other ones and Ken Masters were going to be playable characters. And we got the Smash Brothers Direct, and while Ken Masters was a playable character, an Echo Fighter,
Yay.
Shadow, unfortunately, is just going to be a trophy and one of the spirits.
Now, when you say unfortunately...
Well, unfortunately for Shadow fans, I should say.
I was really hoping Shadow would get in. Like, yes, there are other Sonic characters I preferred to have in the game, like Tails and Knuckles, but, as far as Echo
I still have my hopes on one character that I won't bring up
until
after we're done here.
Ooh, like Blaze?
Well, no. What I'm saying is, we should mention that there is a spirit. There's an area now called Spirits, which are characters that can add power-ups and help boost your stats.
This is your Eggman theory, isn't it?
No. Well, how did you know that I was thinking about Eggman as one of the DLC fighters?
Because I remembered your discussion from a few days ago, and I've actually thought of him as a great addition as a character as well.
Well, I mean, he's the only one that hasn't been shown up as a spirit or in the game whatsoever, so it's possible he could be a DLC character. Hopefully.
Well, I would say it's possible, especially in that it seems like every game that they've done, they've placed more emphasis on including, here are more antagonists.
Like
King K. Rool. I was so happy for K. Rool. I'm gonna main him and I'm gonna suck at him, but I'm gonna play him.
Yes.
Yeah, so basically the spirits are stock art characters.
I have complaints about that, but I'm willing to set them aside.
Boost your fighters and can give extra power-ups to your character, to your fighter. Make him do odd things too, like you can actually add the Able sisters, the hedgehogs, to Sonic, and then you'll have three Sonics attacking on the screen at once in one of the power-ups.
The way it's kind of laid out to me, and my interpretation of it, because it was explained in an odd way, that until I had to really sit down and take stock of what they were showing, it didn't make a lot of sense. But it basically sounds like they've taken a lot of ideas from the past, specifically stickers from Brawl. They've taken mission mode from lots of different ones, and they've taken the customization options and feeding options that they've had in regards to the amiibo fighters, and they've kind of combined them in a more significant way to allow you to better customize a fighter. I would say I am extremely happy about this because I really like the idea that I can have my Smash Brothers character who is mine, that I can then take and battle other people's custom Smash Brothers characters. I think that's a really fun, interesting idea to augment the idea that there are almost 70 characters, or exactly 70 or 70, whatever.
70 if you count Piranha Plant.
Yes. But from there, you can even just augment them further to build them to your playstyle, or to make them crazier, or to say, I don't know, maybe he gets a baseball bat at the beginning of each stage or something like that. Whatever they did with the mods in Smash for Wii U and 3DS.
Yeah.
It is kind of like an amiibo thing, isn't it? It's. I was trying to wrap my head around exactly what the Spirits does, and it kind of confused me for a bit.
I will say something that may annoy Chris, but I am a bit disappointed that the single-player mode is not kind of more of an adventure mode / subspace emissary thing with some platforming areas in it. But I know the platforming subspace emissary wasn't very good, and it's a lot of work. So I'm just glad there is a single-player mode in this game, because
everybody gets murdered except Kirby.
That is what the Wii U and 3DS versions were really lacking, was a proper single-player.
I would 100% agree with that. And I mean, it's fine if you're disappointed in that. I just don't like the part where people are literally upset that I didn't get the mode I wanted. I didn't get the characters I wanted. Why isn't Sakurai specifically making this game towards me? There were people who were angry at him that he wasn't following what the pretend fake leak actually had in it, because
the pretend fake leak, Piranha Plant aside, was kind of something that was a bit cooler than what we ended up actually getting, but
it was believable because they had the most obscure things, like the chorus from Rhythm Heaven was the chorus boys from Rhythm Heaven were going to be fighters.
I mean, I would love that.
That would have been cool.
I would love that,
cool.
But
it would be so Nintendo. That's what made the rumor believable, because that would be such a Nintendo thing to do.
Smash Brothers fans, here's the thing. Smash Brothers fans never learn. They never learn. They have never learned with any of these games, right down to the fact that, remember Rayman? Remember the Rayman leak from
we'd get him.
that while back? Yeah, nobody learned. Nobody figured out, oh, this is realistic. I want to believe this because this seems like the thing that I want. Therefore, it's the thing that's most probable.
I mean, it was pretty convincing. Like, that was some really solid character art that guy did.
Yes, but you can't trust any of it. Unless it's coming from an official source, you can't trust any of it. You just can't. We've seen time and time again.
Nintendo, fans in general are never going to be happy with what they get, no matter what.
Yeah, like what you're describing was like just the toxic part of every single fan base in existence.
Exactly.
The one thing that I want from a Smash Brothers game is the thing that I didn't know I wanted.
Piranha Plant.
Like Piranha Plant. The character that I want most in a Smash Brothers game is whatever character Sakurai wants the most. Because whatever I think of, he's going to think of something twice as fascinating.
Yeah, although I am a bit disappointed that one thing that would have been pretty cool that Game Explain came up with was the Tetramino as a character. They have a pretty good concept for that. But, yeah.
Everyone has a concept. Unless, it's nice to have a concept, but we've been having concepts since the days Melee was released. It takes, let me put it this way. I wouldn't have given two craps about Incineroar until they showed him. Because they made one hell of an Incineroar. I was blown away.
Like, after I got over the initial disappointment of him being the final one, he does look cool. I'll give you that.
He oozes personality in a way that this series is an expert at.
Especially with his final smash. I just love that last bit where like his arms are folded and he just like slams into his opponent with his head.
Like, you could, the way his facial animations work, the way that he moves his arms, just is so absurdly over-the-top expressive that I don't care that he's maybe that I didn't necessarily think he was a great Pokemon in Sun and Moon. This is like the idealized, perfect world version of that Pokemon. I don't know.
All right. Now, who's read Sonic? At least Sonic number 9 to 10. I mean, do we want to go into comic book discussion, or?
I think we could probably save that for the next one because I haven't, and you
I
haven't.
don't want to spoil it for anyone if you guys haven't read it yet.
Okay, I'm about ready to wrap this up. Misty, did you want to talk about anything?
Yeah, I did. I did about like Sonic Team Racing. I remember how we talked about that. They probably delayed it because they didn't want to do glitches like Sonic 06.
Yeah,
It's possible. Like it's when you think about the more recent history of Sonic, it is kind of a weird mishmash of there are games where they really just hit it out of the park that they feel like for the scope of this game, they got exactly what they needed to get. Things like Colors. Colors was probably about the perfect scope that they needed and had the right development time it needed. Generations generally was okay. I think they kind of... But listen.
That was a good game.
Generations was great. It completely fell apart in the final boss. The final boss was...
Yeah.
And the missions could also be missed, but those were mostly...
well, that's true of a lot of 3D Sonic games, is they don't nail the boss all the time.
Generation... All of the other bosses in Generations were fantastic. It was the last one that stunk. The last boss of Colors was excellent, I would say.
Oh yeah, that's like one of my favorite bosses in the Sonic series. And it was so cool that we actually this was the first boss we got in a Sonic game since maybe Sonic 2. Where so you didn't fight a Super Sonic. That was like nifty in of itself. It was also just well designed, and it was like a very well designed boss for the kind of gameplay Sonic Colors had, whereas where you had to run and dodge things and stuff, whereas in Generations not so much. I barely even remember the boss in that game. I just remember it not really being all that intuitive.
You flew around a lot, you sort of collected rings that you randomly flew into, and at some point you could hurt it, I guess.
You can run out of rings and die, which is.
But in Colors,
it's all about
the Colors boss is all about avoiding many different kinds of obstacles.
Oh, we were talking about the Colors boss. My bad.
Yeah.
And getting really close to Eggman. Just like in the old games, you smacked him, but it wasn't just a smack. It was kind of like a cinematic, beat down. Yeah, which I appreciate in that kind of game.
I kind of feel like this certainly will not hurt it in any way. This is in no way, or I'm sorry, this is only going to make it an ultimately better product. Even if they don't improve it, they're at least releasing it at a time in the year where it can actually shine a bit. But I would say after, even though I kind of sort of like the game in certain ways, Forces had problems.
Yeah.
Forces definitely had problems. Forces felt rushed, even though it seemingly had the opportunity to have a very long development cycle. And they got a lot of crap for it. They got sufficient sales for it, fine. But that game
even Sonic 06 sold well.
Well, it's the game that they sold at $40 that felt like an appropriate $40 Sonic game.
06,
It felt like it was a lot lighter than it needed to be, and I think the design overall was not what people wanted at the time, especially when Sonic Mania was out at the same year, and that was just so much superior in contrast to that game.
It just makes you question, where did all the time and resources go into? Because there's no clear answer to that question.
The Avatar system.
Even then, I would say didn't really, because they didn't really give you a chance to do much with the avatar system.
Honestly, I'm afraid that they may have just they may have just had a time period where they just weren't working on a Sonic game.
That's
Like
very
Which-
possible.
Yeah, 'cause I was gonna say
Like-
with that game there was Sonic Forces. Sorry, there was a 5-year space between Lost World and Forces, and you're wondering.
I'm going to cut you off there, Jason, if
Yeah.
only because we've already kind of discussed this to death.
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
my point is, this is Sumo Digital. I understand that it's going to be a different type of development environment for something like that, but after what happened with Forces and some of the bad word of mouth it got, I think that letting this game sit out a bit is just going to be better for everyone.
Right.
Whether it is getting actual legitimate improvement under the hood, so to speak, pun not intended, or whether it's just being moved for schedule's sake.
Yeah, to basically kind of avoid the glitches and stuff.
More or less. Like,
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of it. And I think it possibly, like I was saying before, is design-wise, it's still not quite there. There's, having your AI team being back up, yet you're kind of babysitting them. That's something they really got to work on to improve.
Or alternatively, maybe they could just maybe they're no. Even with 6 months, I doubt they'd have time to like restructure some aspect of the game to make the team thing more of a multiplayer only kind of thing.
One word answer, Alex. Drivatars.
Yes, that's what they're working on.
They have access to the
I wouldn't
Nintendo Cloud now.
I wouldn't worry
Everyone has
about-
Drivatars. You'll play
It's like-
with your friends. AI.
Like I said, I've played this in 2 different shows, and it plays fine as far as frame rate and all that. It just and even it controls well. It just seems like it could be just the design, or it's or the scheduling.
Well,
it's a
like I said
structural
earlier,
thing.
I doubt it's
Yeah.
just bad scheduling because there are lots of months between December and May where they could have put this thing.
I think they announced it kind of early for what they wanted to do with it, and I think they specifically did it because the only other Sonic game that they would have had this year would have been
DLC.
the DLC upgrade. And
Right.
we know that Sega tends to like to have a Sonic game on shelves every holiday. And
So what you're saying is maybe they were rushing it and it just wasn't.
well, I think that they had greater aspirations than than were probably realistic, which is something that they've gotten in trouble in the past for. Like we brought up Sonic 06. Why not talk about that very briefly? That game exists in the state that it does primarily because they needed to get it on shelves for a holiday, and by God, they sure did.
And they only got the Xbox 360 version. The PS3 version completely missed the window. I can only imagine how bad that version must have been if they had delayed till January.
Yeah.
I feel like we don't, despite the fact that it would greatly help the discussion in this show, they do not need to have a Sonic game every year. I feel like they feel
I
like
agree
they
with
need to
that.
have, especially now that the Yakuza series is actually doing well outside of Japan for them.
Yeah, and it's not, and this is not really a prime Sonic game. It is a Sonic spin-off game.
Which is ironic because it's probably going to be better than the last Prime Sonic game.
Well, I mean, Sumo Digital, like even if it is cars racing, I'm sure they could probably.
Sumo Digital
What?
does excellent work.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Like
Or
even
transform, darn it! I want it on
Yeah.
Switch.
Yo.
they need
Yeah,
to port that thing to modern platforms.
They
Now,
ported it to
speaking of-
everything else. He was like, even on phones.
Now, while we've been speaking about this thing getting delayed till May, I think it's important to note that the Team Sonic Racing comic book was only delayed till November. We're still getting that this year.
Yeah,
About
it's
10 minutes.
I don't know why. I honestly don't know why they still do those things unless they are contractually obligated to Sega, because none of them are ever good. Like, I remember the Transformed one.
Hey, I enjoy Knuckles Chaotix.
Knuckles Chaotix was a different era. That was the era
I
whenever
know.
they tried to incorporate those into the actual
That's
story.
how far back I have to go.
Instead of the in another place, in another time, here's this short story that sort of goes before the events of Sonic Chronicles. We show one screen of this one character. Enjoy. I don't friggin' know.
I also enjoyed seeing Sega characters in a comic book in that Transformed comic.
Here's the thing, though. They were done better, and they were represented better in the Worlds the Worlds Unite.
Yeah, they were.
That was vastly superior.
One piece of related
But this
news,
was
Team
before
Sonic
Unite.
Racing comic did get a little delay. I think it still comes out this month in November.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
he said that
guess
already.
they got delayed till November.
Okay, I had to lift that company.
Yeah,
in
we
here, so I
saw
had
it,
to
we saw
lift
it.
my headphones.
Sorry, Jason.
Alrighty, I think that just about wraps it up here. I want to thank everybody for showing up. Thank you, Misty, for being our special guest.
Thank you. I can't wait until next time.
All right, and thanks again to GX.
No problem. I'm going to go ahead and plug something very quickly. Right here on this channel, which you probably aren't watching it on because I can see the view numbers at this moment. We have other programs, which is to say, at the moment, we have one other program. It is a little series that myself and occasional guest host Evil Dr. Reef have started called Bargain Debasement. It is a series about playing very cheap games. As in, I found this at a discount store for $1. In the latest episode, we played Kelly Club, which is based which is a Game Boy Color game based on Barbie's preschool little sister character.
Oh my god.
It was awful. It was
I can imagine.
It was very bad, and I was very indignant about everything that was going on at the and each moment.
Although
I might
hear
have to actually watch
sometimes those kind of games, the developer decides to go get passionate about it and actually puts his
I
best
made that
effort into
comparison.
Some of those.
I made that comparison. If you want to play a good one of what Kelly Club was, I would recommend the Hamtaro games on Game Boy Advance. They do
Aren't those,
very similar things, but better in basically all ways.
Oh yeah, but that's a very popular cartoon. I'm just thinking something like there's the Dog franchise, which are mainly these paintings with big heads, but they made a Wii game called The Dog Island, which I hear was actually fantastic for a spin-off game.
I have not encountered that one. I have played Heathcliff Fast and the Furriest, which is not a good racing game.
No,
I remember one game. I only watched part of one of your episodes. That was when you guys were playing some card game with a buff chicken. Well, buff eagle, I guess. But
Yes. I still need to put that one on YouTube, but we did spend some time playing SNK versus Capcom Card Fighter. The localization is bad, and they don't tell you very well how to play the game.
Did you need something to say, Misty?
Yeah, is anybody part of like any animations like on YouTube, any Sonic animation?
Not me, no.
Animations, no. My limits are streaming.
There are some when I do Sonic Revolution every year in June. There's always like several animation project teams there, usually showing off like Sonic F, and that kind of stuff.
Well, that's not animation. That's more of an abridged thing.
And well, there's also ones where they use the source engine for computer animation. They do stuff like that.
Oh, huh.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me that there are source film animations that aren't pornography?
Yes, of
believe it or
course
not.
there are. There's loads of them.
I'm sorry, I stole that joke from another
okay.
stream.
Yeah, there's also Source Filmmaker, and I know a couple YouTubers that use it, and it look like it works pretty good.
I watched one with Captain Falcon in it. He only says the voice clips
so
from Smash
many of
Brothers.
those out there. Anyway,
Falcon Punch.
I'm gonna wrap this up because I gotta get going. Thanks again for everybody showing up.
Since they won't plug it, I
Yeah.
guess I will. Be sure to read Jason Barry and Alex Peel's stuff over on the Sonic Stadium. They write it periodically.
I actually recently got back to Sonic Stadium after doing some other things.
Now we write periodicals periodically.
We're planning some things for Christmas, including a little article about Sonic Adventures Christmas DLC. So keep an eye out for that.
All right, and that's gonna wrap it up for us, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Peace.
Bye.